Right, well, we have travelled out of the Strip of Vegas, all the way out here to Silver Bowl, where the NRL Nines tournament is happening, and we've got Matt here from the USARL to talk to us a little bit about what's going on and I guess rugby league in America. So Matt, tell us a little bit about what this Nines tournament is all about and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, so the Nines tournament, obviously it's backed and ran by the NRL. It's fantastic from growing awareness in the game. That's a key strategic thing we need to do here, because a lot of Americans just refer to it as rugby.
Yeah.
So I think it's that education piece for us. People knowing it actually exists here as well too. The amount of people I talk to here that go, I didn't even know there was rugby league here. And then when they found out sort of from different people that there's a club, they're starting to get involved, which is fantastic. So, and then even the partnerships too, like with the Sydney Roosters, massive play from an awareness perspective as well too, having such a committed partner out here as well too.
So the teams that are here, are they American predominantly? Are there teams that have travelled from sort of elsewhere? What's the sort of makeup of the players out here today?
It's a bit of a mix. There's some guys from Australia. There's some American teams in as well too. There's some Canadian teams. I think the Toronto side won before the Bowl or Cup, one of the two trophies. And the LA Roosters girls just took out the women's division. So it's really good to see a bit more of a representation than just American teams. And the hope is that the event can grow and get bigger, because it's good competition. It's really good for our domestic players in testing themselves on where they're at.
Talk to us about rugby league in America and that domestic game. What does it look like? Is it growing? Is it big? And how big can it get, do you think?
Yeah, the game's growing. So currently there's activity in 4 different regions. So we've got the West Coast, which is sort of that California. This would fall on the West Coast as well too. We've got activity out in Utah as well. Then we've got sort of over in the south in Florida. And then we've got in the Northeast corridor where Brooklyn, Boston, DC, Delaware as well too. And what's real pleasing to hear is that even in the middle, we're starting to get a little bit of interest. I'm hearing that there's a bit of interest out of Texas, a little bit of interest in Colorado, and also Chicago.
What's the biggest challenge? I mean, probably the obvious one is you're competing against these massive American sports, basketball, football, etc. But yeah, in terms of on the ground, what's the hardest challenge for you sort of growing the game?
A lot of stuff you take for granted. So a lot of things like finding a rugby league ball, finding grass fields. So that's one of the challenges with trying to help some of the Australian teams and teams travelling over find suitable facilities. It's called turf here, but turf's actually synthetic grass. So that's kind of the challenge as well too. And then the other thing is posts, and then you've got, if it's a turf field, you've also got soccer linings, you've got gridiron linings. So that's another challenge as well too. But outside of that, it's just spreading the message, getting that awareness piece too, and the board's starting to be a bit strategic on where we look to try and support and grow the game. So one of the initiatives we're doing this year is rolling out some balls to clubs to just help them have the necessary things to get going, and we want to start taking a lot of pressure off the clubs.
Do you notice people, fans or players, kids coming from other context books like, say American football, are they seeing rugby league and go, hey, that actually is a little bit cooler than American football or whatever it might be?
Yeah, we've actually, so the biggest key here is with attracting athletes is it's about, opportunities for the players and how well the players are looked after. So I frequently hear stories where kids that are involved in, whether it be high school American football, that the kids are having a negative experience, or it might be from a rugby union background. They don't see these pathways as well too, so it's very challenging. Some of the professional clubs don't have academies in the area as well too, so I think it's we're trying to put the athlete first, and I think that's going to be the key in really growing the game here and setting us apart. And I think partnerships like we've done with the Sydney Roosters on the West Coast, if we can replicate that to help the interest skyrocket as well too. So there's a lot of positives coming out, and there's been a lot of hard work done behind the scenes, and it's good to start seeing some of the positive stuff come to light.
One thing we've sort of been asking a lot of people we're talking to on the ground in Vegas here is, are we just seeing, we're talking about from the NRL's point of view, are we just seeing a bunch of sort of Kiwi and Aussie fans coming over to watch their teams in another city, or are we genuinely, growing the game? Are we bringing American fans? And you'd be better to talk about that than most. Is it working? Is the NRL bringing 4 teams a year over to Vegas to play their opening match working from a interest growing the game point of view?
I think the biggest thing's consistency with it. So every other time they've come to do rugby league activity, whether it be bringing a test match here, it's sort of been one and done. But year 2 now, what's year 3 look like? Americans like the consistency with stuff, and I think you even start hearing stories where people are actually saying rugby league instead of rugby. Look, there's people even on our board that say rugby. So it's that ongoing education piece as well too. And I think the longer they hang around, we're also bidding for the 2030 World Cup. So things seem to be progressing on that as well too. So we're very hopeful that we have a successful bid in hosting, and with that, you might have the 2 best American stadiums involved in that bid, one being Allegiant, the other one being SoFi Stadium. So,
awesome. But just finally, how big can it go, do you think?
Well, I mean, from a growth perspective, rugby union, to give you a bit of context, over 1.2 million players, not even including the college system. So, look, sky's the limit, isn't it? But I think we need to make sure that the clubs are stable. We need to make sure that there's enough referees, enough coaches. So there's a lot of challenges. Even getting youth academies set up as well too. Pathways that come from, the domestic competition where they go into sort of the Hawks pathway, hopefully represent the country, or even have an opportunity at an NRL club or Super League club. I think the more players can see these pathways and opportunities, they'll jump at the bit, and there's enough people here for everyone to exist.
Oh, it's been an awesome time coming out here and seeing a bit of a festival of rugby league away from the strip, mate. So you've done a great job. Hopefully it's bigger again next year when we come back, and I guess keep up the good work.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for your time.